Life isn't just about what happens to us. It's about how we choose to rise from it. I've stood on stages around the world, faced criticism, failure, heartbreak, and still I rise. Why? Because I learned to master the one thing we all underestimate: our own mind. Today, I want to talk about something more powerful than privilege, talent, or even luck. I want to talk about mastering your mind. Because when you own your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, you don't just survive, you thrive. You don't just live, you lead. You don't just exist, you create a life that means something. So if you're ready to stop waiting for permission, if you're ready to rewrite your story, then let's begin. Because when you master your mind, you truly master your life. Self-awareness is the foundation of mental mastery. It is the quiet power that fuels every significant transformation in life. In a world that constantly demands our attention, it's easy to get swept up in noise, external opinions, societal expectations, distractions, and the fear of missing out. But amid all this chaos, the most important journey you will ever take is the one inward. Mastering your mind begins with truly understanding yourself, your fears, your triggers, your patterns, your passions, and your purpose. Without self-awareness, even the most disciplined effort is misdirected. It's like sailing a ship with strength and speed, but no compass. You might move fast, but you won't know where you're going, or worse, you'll end up somewhere you never intended to be. Self-awareness means being able to recognize what's going on in your mind without being ruled by it. It's about observing your thoughts instead of becoming them. Most people go through life reacting rather than responding. They mistake their thoughts for truth and let emotions dictate decisions. But your thoughts are not facts. They are just stories your brain is telling you based on conditioning and past experience. The ability to step back and notice those stories gives you power. It creates a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap lies your freedom. That gap is where growth happens. That's where you gain control. When you become self-aware, you start seeing the difference between your real self and the version of you that's shaped by fear, by trauma, or by others' expectations. You start questioning the limiting beliefs you've been carrying for years, beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I always mess things up, or success isn't for people like me. You begin to realize those thoughts aren't truths, and just like any habit, they can be broken. You can't change what you don't notice, but once you become aware of a pattern, you can begin to rewire it. One of the biggest blocks to self-awareness is distraction. We live in a culture of constant stimulation. We're glued to screens, bombarded by information, and conditioned to stay busy. But silence is where self-awareness is born. When you give yourself space to reflect, through journaling, meditation, or even just mindful solitude, you start hearing the voice beneath all the noise. You begin to distinguish between what you want and what you've been told to want. That clarity is powerful because the clearer you are about who you are, the less power the world has to shake you. Another crucial part of self-awareness is emotional intelligence. It's not just about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. It's about recognizing how you feel, why you feel that way, and how those emotions influence your behavior. When you understand your emotions, you no longer let them control you. You don't suppress them, you understand them, process them, and then act from a place of intention instead of impulse. That's real strength, that's emotional maturity. That's how you make conscious decisions that align with the life you actually want to live. Self-awareness also teaches you how to deal with failure. Most people take failure personally, they internalize it, and it chips away at their confidence. But when you're self-aware, you can separate your worth from your performance. You understand that one setback doesn't define you. You can analyze what went wrong without spiraling into shame. That allows you to learn faster, bounce back quicker, and move forward with resilience instead of regret. You become your own coach instead of your own critic. Mastering your mind doesn't mean controlling every thought. It means understanding where your thoughts come from and deciding which ones deserve your attention. And that process starts with self-awareness, because once you know yourself deeply, you stop being afraid of failure, rejection, or judgment. You stop chasing validation and you start living in alignment. You become intentional instead of reactive, focused instead of scattered, powerful instead of overwhelmed. Discipline your thoughts and your actions will follow. The mind is the command center of your entire life. Every decision you make, every goal you set, and every habit you form begins with a single thought. Yet most people allow their thoughts to run wild, undirected, unchecked, and undisciplined. They wake up and immediately react to the world, to messages, notifications, worries, distractions. Without mental discipline, you become a passenger in your own life, driven by impulse rather than intention. But when you discipline your thoughts, you reclaim the driver's seat. You begin to steer your life with clarity, purpose, and control. Mental discipline is not about suppressing your thoughts or pretending negativity doesn't exist. It's about recognizing which thoughts serve you and which don't, and then choosing to focus your energy on the ones that move you forward. Thoughts are powerful, they shape beliefs, and beliefs shape behavior. If your mind is filled with self-doubt, excuses, or fear-based narratives, your actions will reflect that. You'll hesitate, you'll procrastinate, you'll settle. But if you train your mind to focus on courage, possibility, and resilience, you'll act in alignment with those ideas. That's how transformation begins. Not with a change in action, but with a change in mindset. Training your thoughts is like training a muscle. It takes consistency and effort. Just like you wouldn't expect to lift heavy weights without building strength over time, you can't expect to have strong, focused thoughts without practice. This is where daily habits come into play. Start your day with intention, not reaction. Whether it's through journaling, affirmations, meditation, or simply asking yourself, what do I want to focus on today? You begin to condition your mind to work for you, not against you. The thoughts you feed repeatedly become your mental default. Choose them wisely. One of the most important aspects of thought discipline is learning to redirect. Everyone experiences negative thoughts. The difference between a person who spirals and a person who succeeds is the ability to redirect those thoughts. When a voice in your head says, "You can't do this," a disciplined mind answers, "I've done hard things before. I can do this too." When fear arises, a disciplined mind says, "This fear is a sign I'm stepping into growth." This isn't about toxic positivity, it's about mental toughness, choosing thoughts that empower rather than paralyze. Another powerful practice is detachment. A disciplined mind doesn't cling to every thought as if it's absolute truth. It observes thoughts with curiosity, not judgment. You might think, "I'm not good enough." Instead of spiraling, a disciplined mind pauses and asks, "Is this thought useful? Where is it coming from? Do I want to believe it?" This level of awareness creates space between you and your thoughts. That space is where your power lives. Delivery from the loss of resistance with means you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker of your thoughts. You are the habit of your thoughts. And when you realize that, you begin to read distinctly. You are not your thoughts, you are the thinker. Disciplining your thoughts also means protecting your mental environment. You can't plant positive, empowering thoughts in toxic soil. Pay attention to what you consume. Social media, news, conversations, and even the way people speak around you. Surround yourself with voices that inspire, challenge, and elevate your mindset. Just as your body becomes what you eat, your mind becomes what you feed it. Choose consciously. When you develop this kind of thought discipline, your actions naturally begin to align. You stop chasing instant gratification and start honoring long-term goals. You stop giving up when things get hard and start leaning into discomfort because you know that's where growth lives. You begin to make decisions not based on how you feel in the moment, but on who you want to become. That shift in thinking is what separates average from extraordinary. It's what turns vision into results. The truth is, most of your limits are not external, they're mental. They exist because your thoughts say they do. But thoughts can be changed. Patterns can be rewired. A disciplined mind can break cycles that have lasted for years. It can turn fear into focus, doubt into action, and chaos into clarity. And when your thoughts are aligned with your goals, your behavior begins to follow suit without the need for constant motivation or willpower. That's the real magic of mastering your mind. Silence self-doubt to unlock your full potential. Self-doubt is one of the most silent yet powerful barriers to success. It creeps in during moments of uncertainty, whispers in the background of your biggest dreams, and questions your every move. It doesn't shout, it sabotages slowly. It convinces you to play small, to hesitate, to stay quiet when you have something to say, and to walk away when you're meant to step up. The cruel irony is that most of the time, self-doubt is not based on truth. It's a story your mind tells you, shaped by fear, past experiences, or someone else's opinions. The moment you begin to challenge and silence that doubt is the moment you begin to access your true strength. Self-doubt thrives in the absence of self-awareness. When you don't fully know your worth, your abilities, or your values, it's easy to believe the voice that says, "You're not ready, you're not enough, or you'll fail." But those thoughts are often echoes of past conditioning, not present reality. Maybe someone once told you that you wouldn't succeed. Maybe you failed once and internalized that failure as identity. But your past does not define your potential. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to rewrite your story. And silencing self-doubt is a part of that rewriting process. One way to silence self-doubt is by building evidence. Your brain believes what you repeatedly prove to it. If you constantly avoid challenges, your brain learns that discomfort equals danger. But if you step into fear, take small risks, and show yourself that you can handle hard things, your brain starts to believe a new story. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you earn by doing what you once thought you couldn't. Every time you do something brave, no matter how small, you weaken the grip of self-doubt. You send a message to your mind. I trust myself. Another powerful tool against self-doubt is speaking to yourself with intention. Your inner dialogue becomes your internal reality. If you speak to yourself with harshness, criticism, or sarcasm, don't be surprised when you start believing you're not capable. But when you speak with compassion, encouragement, and truth, you create a mental environment where growth can thrive. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. It means focusing on what's real rather than what's fearful. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," try, "I haven't done this yet, but I'm learning." That subtle shift changes everything. Comparison is also a major fuel for self-doubt. In a world of curated social media highlights and constant success stories, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind. But the truth is, no one shares their whole journey. You see the victories, not the breakdowns. You see the trophies, not the training. When you compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, you're always going to feel inadequate. But your path is yours for a reason. Your pace, your lessons, your timing, none of it is wrong. It's just yours. Focus on your lane, your growth, and your goals. That's where confidence lives. Silencing self-doubt also requires separating fear from fact. Just because something scares you doesn't mean it's impossible. In fact, fear often points to the exact direction you need to go. It's a signal that you're stepping into something meaningful. The key is to feel the fear and move forward anyway. Self-doubt wants to keep you comfortable. But comfort doesn't lead to greatness. Growth lives on the other side of discomfort, and every time you choose courage over comfort, you chip away at the walls that self-doubt builds around your potential. Your environment also matters. The people around you can either fuel your belief in yourself or feed your doubts. Surround yourself with those who remind you of your worth, challenge you to rise, and reflect back the version of you that's strong and capable. Limit your exposure to negativity, gossip, or people who diminish your light. Protect your energy as fiercely as you protect your goals, because your environment influences your mindset more than you realize. Lastly, give yourself permission to be imperfect. Perfectionism and self-doubt often go hand in hand. You don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. You don't need to be the best to begin. You just need to be willing. Mistakes don't make you a failure, they make you human. And the more you allow yourself to be human, the less power self-doubt has over you. Confidence isn't about never doubting yourself. It's about moving forward despite the doubt. It's about trusting that you are capable of figuring it out, learning along the way, and becoming the person your dreams require you to be. Focus creates clarity, clarity creates power. In a world full of distractions, being focused is no longer just a skill, it's a superpower. Every day your attention is pulled in 100 different directions. Notifications, messages, emails, deadlines, opinions, and noise constantly fight for a piece of your mental energy. And if you don't decide what deserves your attention, the world will decide for you. Focus is the discipline of choosing what matters most and ignoring what doesn't. It's about narrowing your mental lens so you can see things clearly, act intentionally, and move forward with direction rather than confusion. Clarity is born out of focus. When your mind is scattered, everything feels urgent and nothing feels clear. You start projects you don't finish. You chase goals that aren't even yours. You react instead of lead. But when you focus, the fog lifts. You start to see what you truly want. Not what looks good on paper, not what others expect of you, but what deeply resonates with your values, vision, and purpose. Clarity is not about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing the next right step. And that comes from shutting out the noise and tuning into your inner voice. True focus begins with intention. It's not just about saying no to distractions, it's about saying yes to what actually matters. When you live without focus, you live in reaction mode. You become a slave to the urgent, constantly shifting from one task to another without ever feeling satisfied or accomplished. But when you set clear intentions, you take back control. You wake up each day with purpose, not pressure. You begin to organize your time, your energy, and your priorities around what truly counts. That kind of clarity turns ordinary days into meaningful ones. One of the biggest obstacles to focus is overcommitment. When you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing well. You dilute your energy and scatter your potential. Focus requires making tough choices. It demands that you prioritize deeply. That means saying no, not out of guilt, but out of strength. Every yes is a trade. When you say yes to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you're saying no to the thing that does. You have to protect your focus the way you'd protect your most valuable asset, because it is. Focus also means being willing to go deep instead of wide. Most people dabble. They start a goal, hit resistance, and then pivot to something else. But mastery comes from depth. It comes from committing to one thing long enough to learn, to struggle, to grow, and to break through. Shallow effort leads to shallow results. Focus allows you to channel all your creativity, your energy, and your drive into one direction. And that's when real progress happens. That's when you stop spinning and start moving. Clarity isn't something you find, it's something you create. You create it by asking yourself hard questions. What do I really want? Why does it matter? What am I willing to sacrifice for it? When you know the answers to these questions, you stop being easily swayed. You stop chasing trends or comparing your journey to others. Clarity makes you unshakable. It gives you a filter for every decision. If it aligns with your vision, you lean in. If it doesn't, you walk away. No hesitation, no second guessing. To cultivate focus, you also need to create structure. A focused mind thrives in a focused environment. That means eliminating clutter, both physically and mentally. It means setting boundaries around your time, your space, and your energy. Focus is not something you wait for. It's something you schedule. Create routines that support your goals. Design your environment to minimize distractions. Train your brain to concentrate by doing deep work without interruption. Like any skill, focus strengthens with practice. Another aspect of focus is emotional discipline. When your mind is clouded by stress, doubt, or anxiety, it's hard to stay clear on your path. Emotional focus means not letting every mood dictate your direction. It's learning to pause, breathe, and return to your center. It's choosing to keep your mind anchored to your purpose, even when emotions try to pull you away. That kind of focus builds resilience. It helps you navigate setbacks without losing sight of the bigger picture. The more you focus, the more momentum you build, and momentum fuels motivation. Success isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things consistently with intention. Clarity simplifies everything. It makes your goals visible, your choices easier, and your path forward undeniable. When you have clarity, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter. You conserve your energy for what truly does. You become precise, deliberate, and powerful. Focus clears the path. Clarity sharpens your aim. And together, they give you the power to create a life that is not just successful, but meaningful. Mastering your mind isn't a one-time achievement, it's a lifelong commitment. But it's the single most important commitment you'll ever make. Because once you learn to own your thoughts, you stop being a prisoner of your past, your fear, or your circumstances. You become the creator of your future. Self-awareness gives you direction, discipline gives you control, silence of self-doubt gives you courage, and focus gives you clarity. Together, they don't just change your mindset, they change your entire life. So the next time the world tries to distract you, doubt you, or define you, remember this: your mind is your greatest weapon, and when you master it, you master everything.